Hello, BookTube. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, we have yet another award to talk about. In this case, it's the National Book Award. Here in America, a fairly prestigious literary award. Certainly, it will change an author's career. Uh, and I got a request first thing in the morning from one of you to do a video about the long list. And by the end of the day, by the time I got back here, I had a number of requests, which underscored in my mind two things. One, you people have a problem with inciting Grandpa Simpson ranting, and two, I should stress that I'm always open to things that you want me to talk about. Feel free to email me and let me know what you want to see. I had seen in my news feed first thing in the morning that the long list was announced, but I hadn't actually looked at it, so I was glad for the kick in the pants. So I've been studying it on and off all day while I've been doing hideously protracted errands. And I do have some thoughts and also some predictions. So I thought we'd go through the categories and we'll mix them up a bit. I'm looking at the National Book Award website, but I want to save the nonfiction for last. There's four categories: there's fiction, nonfiction, poetry, and young adult fiction. And I thought we'd start with the young adult fiction because it's some interesting stuff on here. The the long list is for young adult is 10 books, and it's What Are Girls Made Of by Ilana Arnold, Robin Benway's Far from the Tree, Samantha Mabry's All the Wind in the World, Mitali Perkins' You Bring the Distant Near, Jason Reynolds' Long Way Down, Erica Sanchez's I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter, Laurel Snyder's Orphan Island, Angie Thomas's The Hate You Give, Rita Williams Garcia's Clayton Bird Goes Underground, and Ibi Soboy's American Street. I'm the first to admit that a lot of these went right by me. We're gonna zero in on my wheelhouse, but we'll start at the peripheries. And of these books, the only one that I have actually read is All the Wind in the World by Samantha Mabry, and I liked it. I liked it quite a bit. Didn't think it was award caliber, but then I don't know what that would look like for young adult. But it doesn't matter anyway because All the Hate You Give is going to win. So that's my prediction. I will jot down all my predictions in the description down below. But that's my prediction, obviously, for the National Book Award is The Hate You Give. And then we'll move on to poetry, where I have a slightly better showing, not much. And the long list category here is Frank Bedart, Half Light, his collected poetry from 1965 to 2016. Chen Chen's When I Grow Up, I Want to Be, a list of further possibilities. Leslie Harrison's The Book of Endings. Marie Howe's Magdalene. Laura Keshishki's Where Now, New and Selected Poems. Layli Long Soldiers, Whereas. Shane McCrae's In the Language of My Captor. Sherrod Santos's Square Inch Hours. Danez Smith's Don't Call Us Dead. And Mai Dervang's Afterland. And of those 10, I read all the way through the Frank Bedart, his collected poems. I read Where Now, I read Magdalene, and I read Don't Call Us Dead by Danez Smith. And the obvious candidate to win here is Frank Bedart. It's a gigantic collection by a universally beloved and critically acclaimed American poet. That's the one that I would hope would win. I've grown a little wary of making my own hopes into my predictions for these things, but I'm going to stick with optimism and hope that he wins. Although probably not. I would think that the winner will probably be Don't Call Us Dead, but we'll see. Then I want to move on to fiction. The fiction list is 10 books long, and oh my, oh my. Oh my. Of those 10 books, I have read 8. And the list itself is maddeningly depressing. There is first of all, virtually every book on this list is about the immigrant experience. Half or better than half the books on this list don't take place in America, don't star Americans, don't mention America. There's an enormous amount, in my opinion, an enormous amount of virtue signaling going on this list. And that drives me nuts because a criticism that has been leveled against the National Book Award for years, especially its fiction long list, is that it is very intentionally snooty, that it picks books that are designed. That insufferable friend of yours in Soho who's always reading the cutting edge book, but who wouldn't pick up anything meat and potatoes if their life depended on it. The criticism of the National Book Award's long list for fiction has always been that it honors those books and not anything that isn't edgy or experimental or hot button. And this list certainly does nothing to dispel that criticism. This list is almost entirely that. The two books, I'll read you the list here and we'll go through it. The first one is Dark at the Crossing by Elliot Ackerman, which I not only read but reviewed. It's the only book on this fiction list that I've reviewed. Then The King is Always Above the People, a short story collection by Daniel Alarcon. Then Miss Burma by Charmaine Craig. Then Manhattan Beach by Jennifer Egan. Then The Leavers by Lisa Coe. Then Pachinko by Minjin Lee. Then Her Body and Other Parties, another collection of stories by Carmen Maria Machado. Then A Kind of Freedom by Margaret Wilkerson Sexton. Then Jasmine Ward's Sing Unburied Sing. And finally Barren Island by Carol Zoref. And of those, the two that I haven't read are The King is Always Above the People and Barren Island, which Barren Island I hadn't even heard of before this list. And so we leave those out. I leave those out of consideration. Just look at the others. What I'm left with is just a moonscape of monochrome, depressing, beat you over the head, lecturing exposition masquerading as fiction. Now I know that the Poptimist read Pachinko and really liked it. Now, if I remember, I'll leave a link to his video about it down below because it was excellent. I read it with the best intentions in the world and with a publicist sort of nudging me in the ribs and did not find anything about it that was worth reading. It was so boring. And that's true for almost all of the books on this list. Some of them have their moments here and there. None of them is a successful... The novels, not the short story collections, but none of the novels on this list is a successful example of a novel. And one of them, oh my God, I apparently am going to be in the drastic minority here for the rest of time, but Jennifer Egan's Manhattan Beach, good Lord. It's being praised everywhere, and I think it stands a very good chance of winning this for this category. I think the winner will either be Manhattan Beach or Sing Unburied Sing. And let's just say the National Book Award fiction category this time around was not in Steve's wheelhouse at all. I honestly, the yardstick that I use for these long-listed awards, for short-listed awards, actually my long list for anything, is would I recommend the book in a bookstore? If I still worked in a bookstore at an information desk, I did nothing else, a customer comes up and says, I'm looking for a really good book, a new work of fiction, something that will intellectually challenge me and move me, I wouldn't recommend any of these books. They'd all be there on the front table, and I wouldn't recommend any of them. There would be other books I would recommend instead. So, I can predict the winner for the fiction. My instinct tells me that it will be Manhattan Beach, but if not, I think it will be Sing Unburied Sing. But that brings us to nonfiction, and nonfiction, at least we have a lot to talk about. I'll read you the list here, even though that's a little tedious, but tedium doesn't seem to bother you people. So the first one is Never Caught, which is the story of George Washington's pursuit of one of his slaves, and it's by Erica Armstrong Dunbar. Then The Evangelicals by Francis Fitzgerald. Then Locking Up Our Own by James Forman. Then The Future is History by Masha Gessen. Then Killers of the Flower Moon by David Gran. No Is Not Enough by Naomi Klein. Democracy in Chains by Nancy MacLean. The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein. The Blood of Emmett Till by Timothy Tyson. And Bunk, The Rise of Hoaxes, Humbug, Plagiarists, Phonies, Post-Facts, and Fake News by Kevin Young. I've read all the books on this list, and there are weaknesses here, very pronounced weaknesses. Never Caught is a history magazine article with a ton of air pumped in with a bicycle pumped in. It shouldn't be a book. It's interesting enough in its way, but if you have a work of history and you can, without any trouble at all, boil it down to a 7,000 word article, then it was never anything more than a 7,000 word article. A good one, but I don't know what it's doing on this list. And oh my God, the same thing is true for the Naomi Klein. She and I part ways on prose and ideology and politics and everything else, but she can do much better work than this book. I'm not really sure what it's doing here, but some of the others are truly good, truly worth your time. The foremost being Killers of the Flower Moon, which is about an old murder, but is written with such amazing eloquence and urgency that it doesn't matter whether you have any interest in it or know anything about it. It's just amazing. Also, The Blood of Emmett Till, which is about a famous killing that sparked, according to this author, he makes a very good case for it, sparked the American Civil Rights Movement. And I knew the story, and the big draw of this book was that he re-interviewed a key person in the story of Emmett Till, and got new answers. But for me, that was secondary. In fact, I reviewed the book. I don't think I even mentioned that interview. Instead, because he tells the story with such power that I didn't really care about the publicity hook. It's a very, very strong book. But much as I love a lot of the books on this list, the best one by far is The Evangelicals. Oh my God, what a masterpiece. I am going, like with the Frank Bernard, I am simply going to go on my own optimism and say, in a perfect world, The Evangelicals would win easily over the other books on this list. And I'm going to hope that is true. I'm going to hope that it wins. So those are my quasi predictions. That is the National Book Award long list. And my predictions are that for nonfiction, The Evangelicals will win. For fiction, I predict that the winner will be Manhattan Beach. But if it's not Manhattan Beach, it will be Sing Unburied Sing. For poetry, I think I very much want Frank Bernard to win. And the young adult, I'm not actually, I haven't read any but one of the books, but I recognize an ideological groundswell when I see one a mile off, and the hate you give, I find it hard to believe that it won't win. But so there you go. That's the National Book Award long list. I once again cleaned up in nonfiction, and the fiction. Oh. Well, anyway, some of you have probably read. I mean, The Poptimist isn't the only one. Some of you have probably read some of these novels and really liked them. The Leavers, Manhattan Beach, I think I've seen mentioned on BookTube. So, by all means, sound off in the comments. But we'll see. We'll find out in November which of these are the lucky winners. And until then, I will see you soon with Book Talk. Thank you, BookTube.